Sampling techniques. In statistics, the sampling technique or sampling method is the process of studying a population by collecting information and analyzing that data. The sample space is the foundation of large amounts of data. Sampling aims to collect a representative subset of the population. These are categorized into two different types of sampling methods. Probability sampling involves random selection, which allows to create strong statistical inferences about the whole group. Non-probability sampling is a method that uses non-random selection, like availability or other criteria, that is easy to gather data, and which does not utilize a full probability sampling design. Each of these sampling methods has 4 subsections. There are 2 types of sampling: probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability sampling composed of simple random, systematic, stratified, cluster. Non-probability sampling composed of convenience, quota, purposive, snowball. Now, let's take a look at the characteristics of each sampling technique. Probability sampling. Simple random sampling. When you're using a simple random sample, every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. Your sampling frame should include the whole population to conduct this type of sampling. You can oftentimes use tools like random number generators or other techniques. An example of a simple random sample would be the names of 30 employees being chosen out of a hat from a company of 300 employees. You assign a number to every employee in the company database from 1 to 300 and use a random number generator to select 30. Systematic sampling. Systematic sampling is a type of random sampling in which the list of respondents is divided into discrete groups that are assigned a number as opposed to simple random sampling. Members from a larger population are selected according to a random starting point, but with a fixed periodic interval. For example, James can give a survey to every third customer that comes into the movie theater. Stratified sampling. Stratified sampling is a great way to make sure you have a representative sample of the population. This makes it possible to draw more solid conclusions by including everyone. It requires the population to divide it into smaller groups called strata. For example, the population that you are interested in is Philippine college graduates. You find out that each year there are over 500,000 people graduating from college, which means that your population size is almost 1 million. You decide to collect data from a sample, which is a subset of the population that is used to represent the whole population. Your team can now decide that you want to take a sample of 3,000 Philippine college graduates. Cluster sampling. Cluster sampling involves dividing a population into groups with similar characteristics. Instead of picking individuals from each group, you choose entire groups at random to get your sample. For example, the government wants to conduct a survey on the academic performance of high school students in the Philippines. They will divide the entire population into different clusters or cities. This selects a number of clusters depending on the research through simple or systematic random sampling. From the selected clusters or randomly selected cities, they will either include all the high school students as subjects or select a number of subjects from each cluster through simple or systematic random sampling. Non-probability sampling. Convenience sampling. A convenience sample is simply involves using respondents who are accessible to the researcher. an easy and inexpensive way to gather initial data. There is no pattern whatsoever in acquiring these respondents, so it produces generalized results. For example, if you are working on a project and want to understand the average consumption of soda on your campus each week, well, most possibly you asked your fellow students to complete the survey regarding the topic. This is a convenient way to gather data, but since you only conduct a survey on students taking the same classes as you at the same level, the sample is not representative of all students at your university.
CUDA sampling. CUDA sampling. Similar to convenience sample, a voluntary response sample is mainly based on ease of access. Instead of the researcher choosing participants and directly contacting them, people volunteer themselves, for example, by responding to a public online survey. Voluntary response samples are somewhat biased, as some people will inherently be more likely to volunteer than others. A liquor company wants to do a survey on what age group prefers what brand of liquor in a particular setting. They apply survey quota on the age groups, and some of them decide to complete it. This can certainly give you some insight into the topic, but the people who responded are more likely to be those males above 30, who have strong opinions about the brand of liquor. Purposive sampling. Purposive sampling, also known as judgment, selective, or subjective sampling. It is often used in qualitative research where the researcher wants to gain detailed knowledge about a specific phenomenon rather than make statistical inferences. It must have a clear criteria and rationale for inclusion. For example, a researcher wants to collect feedback from students on the pedagogical methods in their schools. The researcher will select the brightest students who can provide relevant information and whose availability and attitude are compatible with the study. Snowball sampling. When used to build a population sample of traits that are difficult to find, snowball sampling is a recruitment technique in which research participants are asked to assist researchers in identifying other potential subjects. For example, people with rare diseases. When researchers conduct a study on people with rare diseases in the city, it can be difficult to find them, but they can find just a few initial individuals and can ask them to recruit further individuals they may know, either through a private support group or through some other means. Question: the process of studying the population by gathering information and analyzing those data is called A. Sample space, B. Sampling, C. Research. Conclusion: sampling allows analysts to obtain enough data to answer the research questions without having to query the entire population, saving time and money. It is important to choose the right sampling technique to obtain the intended information. Thank you for watching.